I think this blue-white deck, it's like, I don't really know if the soldiers are actually good because most of the blue-white cards don't care about soldiers at all. Yet the golden common cares about soldiers. So I'm going to build it with the assumption that you only really go into blue-white if you actually get the payoff. I think blue-white is like a tempo deck. I think most of the true drops kind of suck, which makes this soldier more interesting. A 2/2 vigilance that can pump with artifacts, but most of the artifacts kind of suck so far. So we're figuring it out here. That's kind of the whole point of building these on the stream together here. I think blue-white still likes this card even though it's not a soldier. It's just a 2-for-1, and that's great. And also probably a lot of like low to the ground spells. So let's throw one of those in there. Let's see. This card could kind of be the piece to it if blue-white ends up having enough of these types of effects, because it's a, you know, if you can get a 3-mana 4/4, it is very good. But like I said, a lot of the 2-drops are not great. But I like that it combos with the Airlift Chaplain, and so yeah, I'm gonna put 2 of these in here for now, and we're gonna see if it works out. Again, I can always cut later on. This is a soldier, but I don't think it's the type of soldier we're interested in. A 1/4 lifelink doesn't really attack. Also, we're not really playing very many blue cards at the moment. Like, none of these cards really... Do we play Wing Commando? I mean, it's a 2/2 soldier. That's good. I don't know. Right now, I don't really have very many non-creature spells. But maybe. Dude, I love Burnished Heart. The card's great. Not the deck for it. Most of these artifact cards are not what we want. Oh, I actually think Supply Drop might be good if blue-white's trying to attack. 3 mana to give something +2/+2, helps you win a combat, triggers all of your artifacts. It's a good combo with the Phalanx Vanguard too. It can help you like trade up or like win a combat or pressure them. And it also combos with Wing Commando at the same time. So maybe Supply Drop is a piece of blue-white soldiers. I'll throw one in. I don't think Veteran's Power Blade, I was saying when I was muted, I don't think this card gets there. It's really clunky even though it specifically states soldiers. So the fact that it doesn't pump toughness, yeah, not so good. Alright, let's look at the 4-drops and then work our way backwards. I think there's really good 4-drops across the board. This is just generically good removal spell. We'll put one in. The Thopter Architect, again, if we're not playing that many artifacts and things already have flying, then this is not really the deck for it. I think Thopter Architect might be more of a green-white card once we get to it. Now, Involuntary Cooldown, if it goes in a deck, I think it might be this one. Tapping 2 things down and just attacking is quite good if you just have a lot of board presence. And then it combos with like Wing Commando with the prowess, all that. So throw one of those in there. I don't think this is a Mightstone's animation deck. We're not really making Power Stones. I think this card's kind of a big clunker. Is a 4-mana 2/5 soldier even good? I mean, it does attack decently well. You can turn it into a 3/4 or a 4/3. It costs a lot of mana though. It is like, if you do actually get there, hello. If you do actually get there on the Tacticians though, which we're assuming we do, because it's the whole point of building this deck, then I think maybe the Retrieval Agent, like that's the whole point. I don't know. Yes, welcome. Thanks for your support, Rossimo. Take Flight. Is this a deck for Take Flight? Again, I think this card's just good. I am going to cap my uncommons at 8. I think that's reasonable. So I'm going to cut down to 8 uncommons by the time we're done here. Okay, this is the card we want, right? It's a 3/1 soldier for 4, and it makes a soldier, so that's the payoff with the tacticians. So I think you don't want this retrieval agent. I think you just want a couple of these. And then unearths, and you're just bashing them. Because, like, you can't just play a million 4-drops. Yeah, none of these really are what we're looking for. Okay, let's look at 5s. 5 mana 4/4. I mean, it's playable. If we need to, we can do that. Self-assemblers. No. Coilous Rock is a good card if we're just playing the tempo game, and it's good if we play more unearthed cards. So if we put more of those in our deck at the end, then sure. Like, I don't know, 5 mana, 3/3 Flying Flash that makes a Power Stone is just a good card. The rest of these, I could see playing a Desynchronize if you're just attacking. I don't think you make use of all the Power Stones for this. Again, I think this is a green-white payoff. Oh, Aeronaut Cavalry, of course. This is the one you want. You don't want Coilous Rock. If we're going soldiers, then let's go soldiers. Getting to pump the soldier is what it's all about, pumping our wing command. So I think you just want to play like blue-white flyers. And then if that's the case, I don't know if the Warlord's Elite actually gets there, even though it's a soldier. Because how many 2s are we going to play? It's like not actually a card you can play on turn 3. So I wonder if there's a better, different... Maybe you do just play the Yoshin Medic if you're playing flyers. Maybe one of those is fine. Putting counters on a 1/4 lifelink is good. Like if you curve Yoshin Medic, Tactician, Cavalry, it's a 3/6 lifelink. That's pretty hard to beat. Even putting a Take Flight on the Ocean Medic, like a 2/5 flying lifelink that draws a card, that would be pretty good. And let's sort this, separate our creatures and non-creatures. Let's take a look at where we're at right now. I haven't looked at the expensive cards yet. We might play some of those, but this is 19 creatures. It's probably going to be too many. I don't think we're interested in Combat Courier. Ooh, I like the Phalanx Vanguard Scrapwork Cohort combo because it puts 2 artifacts into play. So it turns this into a 4/2 on that turn. So you have the 2/2 attacking for a couple turns. And if you go Yoshin Tactician, the turn... So if you play a Yoshin Tactician and then the Cohort, this has 3 toughness, so it's more likely to survive. Could hit for 5 once you get the Scrapwork Cohort down. So that's pretty sweet. Maybe the 1 Warlord's Elite is fine, because it's really good after the Scrapwork Cohort with the 1/1s. If you're not really Power Stoning, it's kind of weak. It might be better in other archetypes, but you could probably get away with playing 1. Like, it being a soldier is nice. Air Marshal. I wonder if we can get another... Also, like, giving that flying is pretty great. Giving this card flying is a big payoff, because 3/1 would trade down otherwise. So, yeah, maybe Air Marshal. So, if we want to play Air Marshals, then having our curve kind of stop at 5 is pretty solid. How many uncommons are we playing right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so it's like pretty reasonable in terms of the amount of like commons, uncommons we could play. Between the Subjugation and the Prison Sentence and the Machine Over Matter, probably don't actually need Desynchronize. Aeronaut Cavalries is where you want to top your curve. If a lot of things have flying, maybe you don't even need the Take Flight. That's a lot of 4-drops. I like the supply drop here. I think that's sweet. Just attacking with all the little creatures and boom, get them. Like, this looks like a pretty solid core. Not sold on the recommission. Actually, I think Recommission is more of like a white-black card where you can like sacrifice things for value and then get it into play that way. How good is Airlift Chaplain here? It's fine. Yeah, I mean, this looks solid. Again, it's just a shell, so it doesn't need to be like perfect. Maybe you just don't even play the Warlord's Elite. Like maybe that's just not the card for this deck. And let's just shave the Chaplain and let's add like a rare or two for fun. I think there's the Soldier Lord, so maybe we'll just put that in and call it a day. Where's that one? Right here, this card. Alright. Yeah, this looks solid, I think. Is there a different Soldier Lord? Oh yeah, that's pretty good too. Yeah, let's just throw both in for fun. Why not? If we're dreaming. Maybe just cut the Engineer. Yeah, I don't really buy this whole soldier business because I think if you don't get the support, this deck just doesn't really, like, you're really relying on some of these payoffs to actually want to build blue-white this way. However, Aeronaut Cavalry seems pretty real. Like, 5-mana 3/4 flyer has been historically, I think, a card. There was the Soul Guide Gryph in Midnight Hunt, which was a decent card and is like 5-mana 3/4 with some upside is a pretty, I think, decent card. Getting a whole counter somewhere is pretty nice. Especially if you can put on like a Wing Commando. These Wing Commandos are a little weak here because the prowess doesn't really go with, like, we don't have that many non-creatures. I don't know how realistic getting like all these Wing Commandos and Tacticians and things actually are, but we'll see. I mean, maybe this deck has way too many high picks relative to others, but there's also a bunch of clunkers that just happen to work well. So, like Aeronaut Cavalry, I don't think is very good in other decks. So you could get those pretty late. I'm sure you can, like, no one wants a Yoshin Medic. Most people don't like this. Well, this card's fine, I think, in multiple spots. All right, let's add some. We do have 10 archetypes to do, so let's add our lands. Oh, maybe we don't even need to add lands. Let's see, basics. Add basic lands, sure. Let's do 9 of these, 8 of these. Aha. Before I added all the lands, oh, split view. There we go. Yeah, if I put the lands down there, that it's a little better. All right, green-white. Okay, green-white, I think mass production's actually good in green-white because there's a lot that cares about artifacts coming into play. So we can maybe build it that way. Yeah, so let's hop in here. So the question is, if we think about those payoffs, like, I think this card is great in this deck, but like you don't have to have it, whereas the Soldier Lord kind of specifically wants you to have that. If I click this, yeah, it gets rid of those. Okay, cool. All right. So if we have this combo, it's kind of nice. And then probably it's more of like a mid-range deck with some prototypey stuff, and creatures and artifacts. So let's see. If we do this, the Steel Seeker getting a bunch of value off all these artifacts coming into play is another reason to play mass production. So that's nice. Have a random fight spell. Why not? Green-white doesn't get too much off of the Blanchwood Prowler and the Airlift Chaplain unless you're just playing a bunch of small things. So I think those cards are a little bit worse than there would be in other archetypes. So let's just not do that. Power Stone Engineer is a nice one. Oh, did I not even include my Ambush Pair? Did I miss this? I must have missed this in the last deck. How'd that happen? I think this is like actively good in the Soldier deck. Okay, well, moving on. I might be good in this deck too. If you're just going wide with tokens. I don't know if we are yet, but let's kind of check that out. There's no exact rhyme or reason to how I'm thinking through everything here. So I kind of think, yeah, maybe there's ways to... I kind of want to play some of these more expensive cards. Oh, I think, where's that one build around? This card. Yeah. So if you get a bunch of creatures in play and then you get a bunch of Power Stones, I think actually green-white could care about getting a bunch of those artifacts and then getting a ton of value off of that. So if we have the Great Desert Prospector, and then Thopter Architect also is a great reason to like jump all your green creatures into the air. So I could see that being more of the core of this deck. So if we can support that at common, I think that's really strong. And if we go up the curve, then we get... Like, I don't think it's the most ramp of like any of the decks, but it's like kind of ramp. Like, I think you're going to want to draft these prototype cards. Of course, most decks are going to want to do that, but... Okay, so if we have this, jump all these giant creatures into the air, then what else are we planning to do? I don't think it, I don't know if we're all the way to Philology Excavation. That seems more green-blue to me. So we'll come back to that. So what's interesting, actually, if we look at this, is that most of these 4-drops don't really seem like they go in the deck. Like, there's just a ton of uncommons. If we are more mid-range, we can include, like, Hoarding Recluse, which could buy time to set up these other combos. So that's not the worst. But it's interesting. I guess this is kind of a 4-drop. This is also kind of a 4-drop. So maybe you don't need too many 4-drops. You just use the prototype cards to bridge. So maybe you don't actually need that many of them. Like actual 4-drops. Maybe that's built into knowing like, oh, in green-white I don't draft too many 4-drops. They're not that good. But I need to prioritize the prototype cards that cost 4. Or have the option to cost 4. I could see Burnished Heart being solid. It depends if we end up splashing. Ooh, Perimeter Patrol is, I think, pretty good. Let's put a couple of those and see if we can build more around that. Like green-white artifacts. Just a 3/3, but we want to have creatures underneath to go off with this Great Desert Prospector. And then it's going to help ramp into all this other stuff. That's my plan anyways. Let's throw let's throw a couple of just removal spells in. I guess we already have an Epic Confrontation, so that's nice. Alloy Animus could be good in this style of deck because the Power Stones are good in the deck, but like not, they're not doing as much, so maybe using the Animist is another way to use them. Like you do want all these artifacts, but then it can be a little tricky how to actually get value off of them. I think Giant Growth probably is just going to be good in this style of deck where mid-range attacking, really good if you combo it with the Combat Thresher because it's a double strike. Okay, that's looking solid. Is there anything else here we want to play? I guess Phaling's Vanguard would be good in this deck too. Maybe a Gaia's Gift. We are playing some big things, so being able to protect it would be nice. I feel like we just want a last couple like creatures though. We have a decent number of 2-drops. But I think of these as the 4s. Like if I build my curve like that, it looks pretty reasonable. Okay, yeah, that's coming along. We're not interested in self-mill, definitely not. Is this a Warlord's Elite deck? I mean, I could see getting a lot of the Power Stone tokens in, but they do come down a little bit later, so I think maybe not. Maybe this card's just not great. How many uncommons is this? Eight uncommons? Yeah, so that's pretty much like right on target. Some of them are premium, I think some are a little less. So maybe just throw a couple rares in and call it a skeleton. I think it looks solid. It has Death Touch as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. Okay, we could do that. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under control, you gain 1 life. That seems like it's pretty sweet in a green-white shell. I mean, it doesn't... we can just add Wormcoil Engine and assume we have it every draft. That's... not really. Sure, throw in a Kayla's Command. I don't know. It doesn't really matter what rares you throw in, because they're rares, but it just gives you an idea of, like, why you would maybe go into that deck in the first place. Like, if you have some synergies, add some power, and then you end up in the archetype. This looks fine. I don't know if the mass production totally gets there. It's really good with the Ocean Dissident, but even just, like, going off of the perimeter patrols, getting a really good attack in with them, maybe going wide. But at the same time, how do you get paid off for having 4 1/1s? Maybe it's not actually good. It's pretty good with the Great Desert Prospector too. So maybe that's just enough. I guess if you had like 2 Yoshin Dissidents, it's definitely good enough. Also the Sereth Steelseeker. So the more of those cards you have, like the more the one-time effect of that makes it worth it. So I think it's probably still good enough. Oh, also Thopter Architect. If you play that and just jump the whole team. So I think, yeah, like 3 to 4 reasons that mass production like ends up giving you almost a card's worth of value from triggers on top of the 1/1s, I think makes it good enough. So let's add some basics. Alrighty. Sort by mana value, and nice. Gives us a general idea about the deck. Again, not gonna be perfect on any of these, but I just want to. The one thing I think is valuable is, like, for example, already looking at this deck, can kind of see that like there just weren't great 4s, especially at common. So if you can get like a really good rare at 4 mana, and you're building towards green-white, it helps really fill in that hole. And then also you can see that the prototype, like especially at common, like I think Boulder Branch Golem is going to be premium here because it triggers all of those Artifact Matters cards and is a 4-drop, and so that is something that's reasonable. Do you think it would be worth throwing in some cantrip artifacts? Yeah, probably. I mean, I think there's a bunch of ways to build all of these. Again, it's just a shell. Like if you happen to draft some of those, there's so many artifacts that you could kind of throw them in every single deck. And I think, yeah, that would probably help. This might be too many non-artifacts, honestly. But those ones, like, how often are you going to see the cantripping artifacts? Because they're basically all on that one sheet, right? If I go back. Let's see. How do I do that one? Show sideboard. Is it back to this one? Yeah. So if we look at, like, a lot of them are... Oh, I don't want the rares. I want these. Like Chromatic Star, that kind of stuff. It's going to get picked pretty highly. Or, like, at least... Like, you're just not going to see too many of them. Maybe Energy Refractor. Like, that you'll see. Especially if you want to splash something. So I could see throwing in an Energy Refractor. It might be better than something else. Especially if you want to splash. But for the most part, like, yeah, this could just sit there and it is an example of something else. So maybe I'll just put that instead of, like, I don't know, Gaia's Gift. Which was probably the weakest. So if I do that, and it's also good with the Alloy Animist. So I'll put this as a placeholder for, like, reasons to splash. It looks kind of silly in the deck as is, but reasonable, I think. So good call. I like it. So let's go to white-red. Alright, so white-red cares about, like, aggression, unearth, all that good stuff. So we'll see if we can make that work. What are the payoffs at the top of white-red? I really like Blitz Automaton, that's nice. But if, I guess the payoffs for Power Stones is really the Unearth. This card's awesome. I was talking about that on the podcast. Just does a lot of work, comes back, gets them. As long as it's not trading with a bunch of soldier tokens, I think it's going to be good. What if we just put in some of these Unearthers? I don't think this card's like the best, but 5 mana 4/4, like it's still reasonably large. You probably don't want too many of them. Maybe throw in a Juggernaut. So one of each. So we have some of these. I can see also, like, well, this one, no. How many first strike creatures are there even in red-white? Oh, it doesn't care about first strike, it's just any creature entering. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense with Unearth. So that's a good combo with the Scrapwork cohort. So if you had, like, these, this could be the core of the deck. You don't need, like... I feel like, again, red-white, this is a good payoff for red-white, but you don't have to have it for red-white to be good, unlike the soldiers. I think it's just too hard to get, like, most decks just aren't going to have enough artifacts for repair and recharge to ever get there. It is really sweet if you can trade off a prototype creature and bring it back and get all the value. That's going to be an aspirational goal, to make repair and recharge work in the format. Okay. This is a good red-black payoff. We're not there, though. Later. Whirling Strike, definitely going to be great in a deck that cares about attacking, which we are. Just put in some random removal. I don't think I like this card. Yeah, make your opponent's creature not block gives you an option where you don't want to +2/+2 your own creature, but +2/+2ing your own creature is just not something I'm interested in. Recommission could be in red-white. Like, if you trade off your 2 or 3 drop and bring it back, that's going to be pretty solid. A Power Stone Engineer also really awesome at enabling all the unearth. This card is just generically fine. Could throw one in. So I like that there's a lot of good options for 2s, and you could double up on a lot of them here. Like if you happen to get another Power Stone Engineer, you play one of these just fine. I think like the 2 drops are actually like pretty decent, and you could even play like, well, I think this card's pretty bad, 3/1. But if you have enough Whirling Strikes, maybe it's fine. There's not that many soldier tokens running around. Although there is the mini Gravedigger in black. For 2 mana, that makes a 1/1. Makes kind of just blanks a bunch of X1s. So you got to be a little bit careful about that. But this, okay, so now we're more of a red-white deck in terms of aggression, because we're playing like 7 2-drops, so that's pretty sweet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we can include a few more artifacts, then the Tomacool Scrapsmith is actually good. I like that it also mills multiple things for Unearth. But I wonder if there's other better things. Like, I think Airlift Chaplain might just do that, but better. Because we have cheap cards we're looking for, and then it can also mill Unearth. Although I don't really love either in an aggressive deck. You probably just want better rate. This card's premium. Just always going to be great. Let's see. When it dies, create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token. More red-black, I think. This, you know, Warlord's Elite actually might be more of a red-white card, now that I think about it. Because what happens is if your creature gets blinked a little bit, like if your Power Stone Engineers can't attack or your Scrapwork Mutts can't really attack into their board, you can use the Warlord's Elite to tap them that turn to get a 4/4 into play. So I could actually see this card being pretty good in red-white to keep up aggression. Because some of these other ones, I mean, this card's obviously excellent on rate, but a lot of these other 3-drops are just not very good. So you kind of want to be playing these 2-for-1 cards, but then if that's the case, well, extra lands is also just not that bad in red-white because you have all these unearthers. So maybe the Airlift Chaplain's fine. I don't think you quite get there on the Scrapsmith. Obviously it's deck dependent, but you need a lot of uncommons. Or you want to have to play like Juggernaut and Tocassia's Onulet, which maybe is fine. If we did that, so many 5s though. That's 4 5-drops. Let's just throw in... Oh, I love Blitz Automaton. So if we played 2 of those, that's the 3-drop you want. Okay, that makes... Okay, it's making way more sense. Okay, so we can cut a Warlord's Elite. That's the one you want. These prototypes up here are always throwing me off. At that point, just throw in a Philology Dragon Engine too. That's the other 3-drop you want. Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes way more sense. So if you have that, then all of a sudden the Scrapsmith actually is a lot better. I think it's better than Chaplain because it also hits your 5s and 4s here. The Chaplain can get you these other random 3s, but you don't necessarily need it. So, or maybe just play 1-on-1. I don't know. Oh, and I like that you can recommission those too. Although recommission doesn't really work if I'm wanting to play the Blitz Automatons, because then actually we don't have that many 2s and 3s to return. So again, maybe that's not what we want here. Maybe we just play like one more removal spell, throw in like a Pyrrhic Blast, call it a day. And this deck looks really good even without rares. Maybe you would play 2 of these. Oh yeah, prototype, sweet. Also, welcome back. All right. Yeah, it's been a while. Okay, let's see here. Throw in some lands. I think red-white looks pretty good here. You could also probably get away with 16 lands because of prototype and things being cheap, but I think the Rummagers actually incentivize having the extra lands when you have prototype. So it's better to go that way than the other. Do this, and then this, and this. Alright, there's our red-white. You could add in some rares, but honestly, don't even think it needs it. Rares make things better, but do not necessarily need rares in our aggressive decks to make them work. Okay, so that's 3 out of our 4 white decks. A lot of the same cards kind of end up being there. White is, I think, really shallow, which makes it kind of tricky. It's kind of more based around what the other color and the combination is doing, is what I'm saying. Like, so with the soldiers, what we'll do is maybe at the end we'll kind of go through each picture and see how they change. And obviously this is just like the first draft to it. So yes, this card looks really good. I agree with that. I mean, it's just a 2-for-1. It's another one of those is like you could just splash it in some random deck and then it doesn't have to be in white-black either, you know? If you get this, it's awesome, but it's just a powerful card. It's not really what it's all about. Overwhelming Remorse, this card is totally bananas. I don't know, I feel like white-black is going to be more like playing a bunch of black cards and have a few white cards in there. Maybe like a Loran to return all the artifacts as it goes. There's not actually that many good, like, there's not that many 4-drops showing, but I think most of them actually are really good in this deck. Like, Loran's great. I think Scrapwork Rager's quite good. Ravenous Gigamole. So if we think about it that way. Obviously, Static Net's great, but I'm not going to put it in every single deck because you'll draft it when you see it. It's the one thing that's like kind of hard about making these draft skeletons is you kind of want to be realistic, and to make them not all look the same, you have to not just put the same premium removal spells in every single deck. So it's a little bit of a flawed process anyways. But I'm more interested in seeing like what the synergies are and like what the deck does in general than like how powerful the shell is, because at the end of the day it doesn't really matter. What matters is how these things interact and the overall sense of the mana cost and what you're looking out for. So if white-black is more mid-rangey, then Goring Warplow is going to be quite good. I think it's just a good card in general, but I think it looks pretty nice here where you have, like, you're just trying to outvalue your opponent potentially. Because kind of most of these cards look like they're all value. And I can imagine, like, if you play the Warplow, trade it off, get it back with Loran, play it as a 5/4 later. So maybe, well, I think Combat Thresher is just a really high pick in all these decks, in like all the white decks, but especially here for that reason. And then if that's true, then like the more prototype cards you get, the better No One Left Behind is going to be. In addition, if you have a bunch of these powerful enter the battlefield triggers, then No One Left Behind is even better. Which kind of makes sense because you have like this green-black, like not reanimator, but bringing things back from the graveyard type strategy. Or sorry, did I say green-black? I meant white-black. I think green-black's going to do it even more, but this is where I was saying is sort of more of the black shell, and then you including a couple white cards. So this is kind of what we're building towards like later on. I could also see, well, no, not really. I think I was going to say I could kind of see Tocasia's Amulet being good here, but I think that would just be worse than the other cards we're playing. Like most of these black cards are just really good. Thraxodemon. Are there junky white creatures we could combo this with? If you had Thraxodemon and Scrapwork Cohort, that's pretty nice. It also just works with Scrapwork Rager to get into the graveyard and unearth again, so I could see that. Also, you just need 2s anyways. Yeah, throw one of those in. A 3/1 for 2 is super good. Alright, is this the recommission deck? Maybe. I don't think so. Maybe recommission's just not where it's at. Ooh, I like Airlift Chaplain a lot in this deck. Because just milling things is more, like, this is, I think white-black of all the white decks is where you want Airlift Chaplain the most. Because, well, I mean, white-black cares about this, like, 3 or less theme, right? If the rest of our stuff is low to the ground, and then it helps get us the lands we want for these higher expensive cards, then that's going to be nice. So let's see, what else can we include here? Maybe Gnawing Vermin. Witch Figure. I'm not really convinced about like the 3 or less plan for these like kind of low to the ground cards though, because I don't really think that's what white black's doing, but maybe I'm wrong. I think it lives and dies by the 2s and 3s that you're returning. I do feel a little silly putting Power Stone Engineer in like every deck, but it's super good. And I think a lot of these other 2s are less good. Maybe it's just based on like Thraxodemons and Power Stone Engineers. Those are the ones you want. I like Moment of Defiance. I don't know if I like it in white-black, because we're looking to trade rather than give something lifelink to live. Even though I think it's just a decent card. Let's see. I don't think so. Maybe. the thing is, there's also a lot of unearth. So if you have a lot of unearth in white-black, I don't know that you're going to get... Like, I see a lot of creatures in the graveyard, but I don't see, like, having that many. 2/1 flyer. 2/1 flyer is fine. This card is, like, absurdly good, but, again, can't just put it in every deck. But I guess I will here. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of these 3-drops don't excite me, which again makes me like question recommission. Maybe recommission. What deck would it go in? Maybe recommission would be good in white-green, if there's a home. I'm just trying to think about that, or maybe white-blue, because I don't really see it in these other decks. Well, would you even play Prison Sentence? You probably wouldn't, because black has just way better removal. You're looking for things like Go for the Throat and Overwhelming Remorse. A little removal light. Let's throw a Disenchant in for fun. And then... how's the deck actually winning? Because right now it has just a bunch of, like, middling creatures that are a little bit clunky. I guess Disciples of Gix would be really good in this type of deck, where you get your Unearthers. You could also get one of your prototype cards to return, and it combos with like the Battlefield Butcher and No One Left Behind. Yeah, so that card would be excellent. Is this deck just all in on Goring Warplow? Is that how it wins? Maybe you need like 2 of those. Yeah, the small creatures are just... the 3-drops are... maybe you... yeah, maybe you have to just make this Skull Flare work anyways. I guess you're not playing that many Unearthed creatures. Like, maybe this is the key to the archetype? And if these are the 2-drops, then, like, suddenly, yeah, my curve looks way, way more reasonable. I think I like that. Maybe I don't need that many Thraxodemons. It's a ton of creatures, but I think that you want more creatures when you're trying to, like, play your creatures, trade, get them back, get value, play a few removal spells. Yeah, that looks solid. I'm not going to worry about adding rares. I think, obviously, the rares make things better. But it's not really what the shell is about. And what I do like about white-black is that I think there are pretty good cards at like every point on the curve, as long as you make sure that your late game is reasonable. Because there weren't that many options. So if you're able to find like the powerful rares that give you the end game, white-black is going to give you really solid stuff in this like early to middle part of the curve. And you could fill it in with like removal too. So I do like what I'm seeing with like there's no giant glaring holes that I'm seeing in white-black. So that's kind of sweet. So add some 8 plains, add 9 swamps. And there we are. Okay, nice. Also, I'm just making up the way we're doing this as we go along. I've never actually like built the deck skeletons. Well, that's not true. I mean, way back in the day, I built some deck skeletons, but like moving the pieces around, thinking through it, that kind of thing, and not basing it as much around the gold uncommons, but more rather like what's present on the curve. I think it's a lot more dynamic and seeing like what the colors are actually about. So it's at least a good thinking exercise, because I'm starting to see like if you just go in blind, like if I didn't think about the Gitaxian Skull Flares, then just like you don't have the 3-drops you want in this deck. So if you know that you want Gitaxian Skull players, suddenly you know that you want more creatures. And if you want more creatures, then you're doing all this other nonsense. So I think that's valuable to know. Hey, Beers, what's up? All right, let's clear that. We've done all the white builds. Okay, get them out of the way, because I think white's the worst color. So now we have the actual fun. Let's see. So what do we want to jump into next? I kind of want... Let's build blue-green ramp. I want to see what that actually looks like. Yeah, my current order, looking at it, is, I think, black, green. My order is black, green, blue, red, white, I think, in terms of the power levels, but I'm not sure. I don't know about blue and red. Red might be better than blue. But blue is pretty synergistic and makes heck of power stones, so I don't know. I think black and green are like the most obvious colors in terms of power. So, oops. Alrighty. So blue-green. If we're ramping, let's just... Can we just like shove everything in here and then figure it out after? I don't see why not. Also, I think like you could in blue-green ramp, you could probably play like Goring Warplows or like random other cards that aren't the on-color prototype. It's probably like the one deck you can get away with doing that. So that would be kind of cool. Alright, so here's our payoffs. Let's just throw one of each of those. And then let's go from here. I think Steel Exemplar might be good if we can get enough of the Power Stones to power it out. So a 5-mana 6/6 would be pretty nice. Although 5-mana 6/6 in blue-green is a little less good. Specifically, let's go for it. Yeah, you know what? Actually, I'm going to cut Steel Exemplar because you're already playing so many creatures that are just massively large that I don't actually know that that's what you want to be doing. Might be a desynchronized deck, actually. Alrighty, working backwards here. Yeah, I mean you gotta throw that in there. Again, I don't think you need the Battery Bearer, but obviously it makes your blue-green deck better. Like, we're already playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ways to draw cards off that. You don't need to draw very many for it to be good. Okay, I think if you draw one, it's excellent. I mean, the white decks didn't look that bad, but I think they're hard to build. Because I was having trouble figuring out, like, where each card goes. Like, for example, Recommission. Like, I was like, I don't know. But if I'm building it wrong and, like, a 3-drop that I wasn't playing is actually really good, then suddenly Recommission ends up being great. So I feel like, actually, white cards, they're a lot more contextual than normally white is. White's normally very, like, aggressive and obvious. And I'm not really seeing it here. Like, I see a bunch of junky 2-mana 2/1s and 2/2s that are only okay. So I don't know. I think if white ends up being decent, it's because it is actually hard to build, if that makes sense. Which is like why we're doing this whole process, because before it looked even worse, and it's like, okay, no, I can kind of see how you're building it. I think Obstinate Baloth's going to be massively overrated early on in the format. I was listening to Limited Resources, and they're really high on Obstinate Baloth. Obviously, it used to be a rare. But I think the existence of... Which one is it? Hey, where's the one that gains me life? Oh, I didn't even put it in my deck. That was a mistake. I accidentally skipped over it. I think the existence of Boulder Branch Golem, like, just makes Obstinate Baloth a little more replaceable. Obviously, Obstinate Baloth is being a 4/4 instead of a 3/3 is huge. But the fact that this is an artifact... and you can play it on 4 mana, but then also on 7, just I think makes this card more replaceable than it would be in a normal set. Like, normally Absent Bailout I think is absurd, but it not being an artifact I think is a pretty big hit. Ooh, Mightstone's Animation. I think that might... We could put one in, but I think this... Again, like, you already have huge threats, so I don't know if that's what you want to be doing with your Power Stones. Actually, you know what? I'm not even going to include it. I think it's probably just bad. I think Mightstone's Animation is really good in basically pretty much every other blue deck, but I don't know about this one. I want to be powering out giant creatures. Although maybe after you power out the giant creatures, you want to turn into a 4/4. That's still possible. So maybe it's just still excellent. Yeah, throw a Burnished Heart in there. Why not? This is the reason to be in blue-green, right? Is Argothian Opportunist. This card's completely absurd. Kind of reminds me of Jewel Thief, except it's a Jewel Thief that doesn't go in every deck. But in blue-green, it's definitely Jewel Thief. Do a Stern Lesson. Let's throw Urza in, because we're feeling spicy. I think Urza is also going to be a little overrated, because I think you kind of need combos to make it like the best. Like, obviously it's going to be great, I think, in blue-black. But in the other color pairs, I'm a little less convinced, because I don't want to discard that many artifacts. Oh yeah, like, I agree. Yeah, maybe Urza is just not even good in this deck. We'll see. It depends how many artifacts we end up playing. If there's a deck for Energy Refractor and Splashing, it's definitely blue-green. Maybe we'll just play two of them. We're feeling spicy. Ooh, are we going to put Coasty B? Is this a Coasty B deck? I love Coastal Bulwark. So dirtily. Let's see if it's Coastal Bulwark time. Look, like, you're going to win the late game. So that's like the perfect spot to play a 3-mana 3/3 defender. Sarenth Steelseeker, probably going to be first picking this out of a lot of packs where the rare's bad, because this card looks insane to me. Even if you only have like 6-7 artifacts, still quite good, I think. You don't need to hit too many times for it to be great. Well, maybe 6 or 7 is a little low, but okay, if you have like 10, then it's like super good. Epic Confrontation, yes please. Blanchwood Prowler. You know, you want the lands, but it's kind of just a... I think you'll play this in this blue-green deck, but really I think it's more of like a green-black card. I think the Self-Mill's not that exciting in green-blue. Maybe you would play one of those. I don't know if you would actually play the Bounce Spell. Well, no, actually maybe you do play the Bounce Spell, because it's almost better to protect your own threats. Like, it's not shore up, but it has a lot of utility of... You could gain the tempo from hitting your opponent's stuff, but then if like the board is stable and you play a big threat and you happen to have the Machine Over Matter, you can protect your own thing. And obviously you don't want to bounce your really, really expensive card. But if it gets locked down especially, then I think it's fine, because then you'll replay it. So I think the blue and white aura-based removal are just... You have to play them in this format because there's giant threats. And because that's true, then the Machine Over Matter gets a big boost from that. Speaking of, do we want to play... You probably would play that here. Like, your blue-green deck, you have to interact somehow. Alloy Animist. I think you're already doing enough other things with your Power Stones, you don't need this. Although, you probably... Like, you would play it if you got it. Let's throw a Bushwhack in. Okay, so where are we at right now? Giant stuff here. Yeah, I'm not convinced about this Urza, actually. I think it's bad in blue-green. In which case, maybe we're not even doing the whole energy refractor thing. It's good if you're splashing. But you're already using your power stones to ramp out your threats. If anything, maybe I'll just put another stone retrieval unit in the deck. All I really want to do is make power stones and play my big cards. Maybe Philology Excavation is a little bit of overkill because, again, you can prototype the things when you're not hitting. Maybe this card is just not good. Yeah, it's probably good, actually. It's probably good. Alright, what are we cutting? I only need to cut one card because I have a Bushwhack. That's a land. I don't really want to cut the big things because that's the whole point of the deck. But this probably, this might be overkill. Oh, whoops, I added 3 of those by accident. Oh, that solves my problem. Alright, this deck looks sweet. I want to draft blue-green. Black-red has been called. Okay, black-red, let's do it. Okay. Black-red seems like a cool deck. I think there's a lot of support, but I haven't actually built it, so let's find out. Red-black. Okay, here we go. So, red-black, sort of sacrifice for value. I don't know if it's a steal and sack. I think you will probably play this. What is it, Sibling Rivalry? Is that the card? I think you probably will play this card, so let's put one in. But I think that's just one piece of the puzzle. I think you have a lot of ways to use activated abilities with all your power stones. And then you're sort of using the power stones and your creatures to sort of be aggressive against your opponent. So it's possible once we build it, we want to be more on the Sibling Rivalry, sort of steal and sack game plan. But I think there's a lot of ways to there's a lot of support for steal and sack. I think this card's actually pretty good. A 1-mana 1/2 that turns into a 3/2 menace. On the turns where you sacrifice, that's just huge. Let's throw a Mishra's Bauble in, because we're feeling spicy. With our Goblin Blast Runners. Let's play 2 of those and see where it takes us. I guess, yeah, these are the decks where you really want some of these sacrifice cycling artifacts. Because it's just going to also trigger your sacrifice synergies at the same time. Which is kind of nice. I kind of hate how many artifacts there is because you have to constantly look at them all. And I don't have them all memorized. But that's okay. Ooh, Ichor Wellspring. Yes, yes. Okay, I'm gonna contain my excitement at 3 of these because you only see 1 per pack, so I can't just literally include all the retro artifacts that I want. This is not constructed. Let's see. That card's just great. Discard and draw 2. I don't think that's what we want to do. Maybe, though. Let's come back to it. Definitely want Thraxodemons. Leaving the graveyard, no. Power Stone Fracture, yes. Yes. Maybe. Already, this deck excites me. This is sweet. Alright, what else do we want to play here? I don't know about this Transmogrant Altar card. Sacking creature to add a bunch of mana. Could be good. What are we ramping into? I feel like for this card to be good, you need both halves. You can sack creatures and make 3/3s solid, but also you could sacrifice something else to ramp. Maybe. like adding. Maybe is the key Blitz automatons again? Maybe it's not. I feel like this is more like red green or red white. Not really what the deck's doing. I mean, it's just a good card. You probably would play it, but I'm thinking bigger than that. Yeah, maybe prototype is not as much about like what red black's doing. Oh, the ultra in white black? Maybe. The only reason I was thinking about it is I'm kind of thinking about this Goblin Blast Runner, and if this card ends up being good, you want consistent ways to be able to sack things. And so I'm just looking out for like those types of options. And so it might not be good. We'll find out. I think this card is kind of just too bad of rate to play in most decks. It doesn't pressure that hard, and so you might, like, every time I look at it, I just scroll past it, but I'm scrolling past it because I don't think it's very good, in case you were wondering. Oh yeah, the Scrapsmith. Well, actually, I don't have that many artifacts yet, so maybe not the Scrapsmith. That's kind of why this set's like kind of interesting, because a lot of the actual artifacts are like kind of bad, you know. Like you have obviously clearly great ones, and you have a lot of clunkers. The ones that are like quote unquote actually in the set. Yeah, Mishra's research desk would be good here. Oh, Clay Revenant. Is that something we're interested in? You just keep sacrificing it over and over, so probably. Alright, what else are we doing? I don't have my card names memorized, so I just keep clicking on it, but for any viewers watching too, then you probably also don't know all the card names, so we're in this together. Okay, so this one you could sacrifice. Like, imagine you get Killzone Acrobat, Goblin Blast Runner, and Clay Revenant in play. You basically can like keep flying it, give the other thing Menace, and then sack the Clay Revenant over and over again. And that's just all commons. Obviously, it's not busted, but it's pretty good. Those are the types of like synergies I'm thinking of. Okay, and we are going to get to Moment of Defiance. I just don't think it's a red-black or red-white card. I think red-green... Oh, sorry, not red-green. I think black... Well, any aggressive deck. So maybe it is good in red-black. I don't know. You could always play one of these. I guess if you attack with the Thraxideme and then they have a 2/2, they can't block. Yeah, you probably do want to play one. Alright. Yeah, this one is 2 sacrifice things in one. Obviously throw one of those in. Mishra. Mishra's actually pretty good if you play 2 Clay Revenants. So maybe we should make that work. Or with 2 Scrapwork Mutts. You get a bunch of mana and then do something. It's not an exciting card, but it's fine, I think. Pendragon Strongbow. Oh yeah, so this is a repeated sacrifice engine. Yeah, so maybe you just want to go like, maybe not all in on Clay Revenant, but I think it is. It's a good way to grind. So yeah, I don't think we want Transmogrant Ultra, because I like the more aggressive versions of the cards. In which case, where's my steal and sack? Oh, I'm not going to separate them yet. So this one, wait, hold on. Where'd my card go? Sibling Rivalry. Oh, it's down here. Let's bring them up, because I wasn't seeing them for a sec. Yeah, so I mean, if we build around Pendragon Strongbowls and all these other cards, then we have all this sacrifice. I think it's just like super synergistic and great. anything that you get multiple cracks at with using the cards is also probably good. So like Scrapwork Rager would be good. This Slagstone Refinery honestly could be pretty good too. It's a build around. But it lets you just keep sacrificing things for value. Might be too dirtily. This gives you multiple creatures and a mass pump, but I don't think that's really what we're looking for. Ravenous Gigamole, good card. I also don't really think what it's looking for, though it gives you 2 bodies to sacrifice, so maybe it's just good. Maybe just throw one in. Good cards are good. I don't know what to say. Probably throw one of those in for good measure. Yeah, so like if we think about like the sacrifice value engine, I don't like this is kind of all in on these, but between the Chromatic Star, the Research Desk, the creatures that sacrifice things for you, like it's not that hard to turn on the Blast Runners. And just I think a 3/2 mana for 1 is obviously really, really good. So I think it's worth building around these cards. If that's the case, then maybe Moment of Defiance is not actually what we want because we're trying to have combo pieces. So the more all in, the better. Is this too dirtily? Maybe. Oh, Emergency Weld, I think is... Well, it gives you something to draw. Like, it gives you a piece of... It's still just probably really good. The thing about this deck is, like, you almost have too many options. I like the core, so I'm probably just going to, like, try to trim it down. Because I think you could even add other things, but I like the focused build. Maybe just cut one of those. You could also play fewer lands with the Scrap Mutts. Maybe you don't need 2 Thraxodemons. It is just a 2/2, but I think there's enough other ways to sacrifice things for value. The Mishra's kind of bad. Because this sacrifices... we have 1, 2, 3, 4 repeated ways to sacrifice. You probably do want 5, so maybe I should add it back in the Thraxodemon. Let's do that. Although some of them are... You know what? Maybe the Strongbow is the... But sacrificing... You can't just sacrifice an artifact every single turn. But this one's not very aggressive because it can't even attack. So maybe it is all about the Strongbow. Or Killzone Acrobat. But again, you also just can't sacrifice something every single turn. Maybe these Blast Runners are a trap and you're more mid-range than that. Okay, well, let's just cut a Mishra's Bauble, because we don't even know if we're going to be there anyways. So what if we played something like this? You know, Clay Revenant is the thing that lets you grind, so maybe you just want to be like really low to the ground and have 2 of those. If you did that, then... You could just keep sacrificing it, which grows your infiltrators. maybe we just cut this one. Because the thing we really want to be sacrificing is our cheap stuff. Or maybe, maybe cut the Scrapwork Rager. Because we already have a lot of engines, so... What about this? Yeah, this looks... yeah, this only triggers once. It only becomes a 3/2. But I think that's fine. Like, I don't think... Like, you're not going all in with it. I think this deck just keeps chip damaging your opponent, and then you might kill them all at once with a Junkyard Genius. Obviously, like, the more of this you get, the better your deck is. And I don't know if, like, the all-in version is the best. You're going to have different types of red-black decks. You're going to have, like, if you don't get all the sacrifice pieces, then you don't want to build the Blast Runner version. You're going to want to build, like, more of a mid-range deck that just plays normal creatures. But I'm interested to see, like, what pieces you need to have to come together to even build that all-in red-black deck, and I think this is pretty close to it. You have to be a little bit careful because, like, Thraxodemon is pretty mana-intensive, so all of these cards can be pretty... like, you might need way too much mana to, like, make this work, but you're applying early pressure, and you only need to sacrifice a couple things to get the Infiltrators going as 3/3s. And then it's like, you're there. Maybe, and like the more Excavation Explosions you're able to play, like the more premium cards you get, the easier it's going to be to build Black-Red Sacrifice, because it's kind of a bunch of cards that most people don't want. So, like, if you happen to get, like, 3 Excavation Explosions and you have a bunch of Power Stones you can sacrifice, then that's obviously going to be way better for you. Like, if you had Killzone Acrobats plus Excavation Explosions, that's a pretty winning strategy to help grow all your other stuff. Or, Power Stone Fractures. Like, 2 Power Stone Fractures plus 2 Excavation Explosions. Already you would sacrifice the Power Stone and get those counters. Or also, like, the more Horned Stone Seekers you get, too, because then you have to sacrifice the Power Stones when it dies, and then you'd pump up your other things that way. So, like, the more premium cards you get that do that, then these good Tixine Infiltrators that you're going to get later, they're just going to be way better. Obviously, you don't know until you actually draft the set. I keep saying that. Take everything with a giant grain of salt. But yeah, I like the look of this. It's pretty cool. I don't know how viable it actually is, like how often this will come together. But it doesn't seem like that implausible. I think most of these cards, a lot of decks just are not going to want. 16 creatures, some good removal, ways to steal, sacrifice, etc., etc. So yeah, nice. Get my screenshot, red, black. So we've done 6 of the archetypes so far. Why don't we hop over to maybe blue-red? I'm interested in blue-red because of the prowess. That's another one that I think is going to be able to come together and be pretty sweet. Let's go here. Like, are we able to build a version that only plays like 9 creatures and plays a bunch of good spells? Because if that's the case, then Philogy Archaeologist, this is the one that mills and you get the spells from it, is going to be really good. So if you had like this, and then a third path Iconoclast, and then I know there's the prowess creature here. I don't know how good a 1/3 prowess actually is, but it's hard to block in the sense that, like, once it turns into a 2/4, it's pretty hard to interact with. But I just don't know how, like, if that's actually that good. Maybe we can get some of those draw a second card combos in here in blue-red. So here might be where Urza shines. if you're able to get enough of the draw 2 bonus cards. But there are not that many of them. Let's see. Obviously we play the prowess, that's one of our creatures. So here's like 6 creatures, right? You want to make sure you can still like win the game. So you'd probably have some rares that would help too. But for our purposes, oh, if you have a lot of ways to clear the path, Mishra's Juggernaut's pretty good. Oh, also, Mindstone's Animation's a nice non-creature that is a creature, so you could definitely play these in blue-red. And if you get the Power Stones, then you're able to still play all the Archaeologists. So you actually get to bump up your creature numbers more than it might seem. So I think this is going to be a key piece to blue-red if this deck exists. Which, I mean, all signs point to yes, that it does exist. Seeing as it's the whole blue-red theme. I'll throw one of these in for good measure too. So, if this is sort of our creature base, now we just fill it in with spells. Oops, that's not what I want. Alrighty. So this finds non-creature, non-land, so you can still run like Weak Stone Subjugation. I'm not convinced. I mean, you probably... Well, you might play Monastery Sorcerer, but it's just not even that good. Mindstone's Animation also gets you your second card, so it combos with a Thopter mechanic. So that's kind of sweet. Levitating Statue, good combo in this deck for sure too. You're going to play a lot of non-creatures, put some counters on it, and then fly in for the win. Alright, so now, what other spells are we playing? Let's see. Throw in one of these. Bitter Reunion, I could see that being good. It's just a loot. Still works with the Archaeologists. Can give your Juggernaut haste later in the game. It's pretty solid. Scatter Ray, yeah. I guess if you're looking for specific cards, Curate could be good. But it's not really helping you win a combat. Like, the prowess cards we're seeing here are not really ones where, like, they have threat of activation. They already have evasion. So I don't know, like, making Wing Commando a whole lot better with Curate, how good is that really? Maybe fine. Like, I could see maybe adding this card, but really only if you needed it. I think we're more interested in things like Stern Lesson. Stern Lesson into Mindstone's Animation is a giant game. So what if you just built your deck around like that and then Scatter Rays? Now suddenly, like on 2 mana, you're playing your card that sets up your game plan, or you're holding up a counter. So those turn 2s are like pretty powerful. Then you just try to get into this like turn 3, turn 4 play pattern. Then you're massively ahead at that point. I rated Urza really highly, but I'm not putting in any blue decks, so maybe that card's just not good. Time will tell. There's just not a lot of artifacts you want to get rid of. I'm just going to put an Excavation Explosion in every one of my red decks, because I'm just always going to take that card early. I think it's excellent. Okay. A lot of 3-drops that I don't really want to play. It's funny. I could break the rule and just put 3 stern lessons in here. Just so we could set up our curve. But I'll have some respect for the rules. I won't put any more than 2 of a card. Yeah, I kind of want another 3, but I don't know what we would play. Counterspell? 2-3? 2-3 is not horrible if we have enough Power Stones. Oh, I just added a 3 too, this one, yeah. This one's not as cool as Arena, and they don't put it in the right spot right away. I have to actually click this again. This core looks really strong. The deck is aggressive, but I don't know that it really needs an involuntary cooldown. I think there's enough other ways to apply pressure. But I do want some more spells here. I don't know if it's those. Well, maybe you would play one of these. I guess you probably would. It just pushes through a ton of damage. Desynchronize. It is pretty good with the counter spells. You could play this and you could play Cancel, maybe. Oh, also the Coilos Rock. I don't know if this is a Coilos Rock deck, though. You're not really using the Power Stones for that much. Like, it's really good with My Stones animation, but other than powering out maybe... I guess you probably would just play pretty much any prototype thing you could get. If that's the case, then it's pretty good. I guess Unleashed Shell is... This is a good deck for that. You have a couple of removal spells, ways to find them. Yeah, this looks pretty solid. Like, there's great ways to interact. Oh, I probably would want a Machine over Matter in this deck, too. Just one. So maybe I'll cut one of these 5-drops. I'll just cut the Unleashed Shell. Alright. Blue-red. Mostly blue, but blue-red prowess-based stuff. There's, like, way more support, I think. Like, if it wasn't exactly these cards, you could also play other ones. It seemed like there was a lot that you could do with the blue-red shell overall. I think you still would just probably play 9-8, especially with a Bitter Reunion. That helps you find more islands. Alright. Great. Here. Okay, what do we want to do in blue-black? Suppose we want to draw 2 or more every turn. I don't know about that, but maybe. As I looked at the spoiler, like, blue-black sort of seemed like blue-black stuff, which is interesting, because normally blue-black decks like pretty streamlined in terms of being more controlling or having a plan. This card, like, looting and then the draw 2 or more, I don't know. Like, there are some of those pieces. If we wanted to build the Trench Stalker, like, Trench Stalker is good in blue-black if you're able to draw 2 or more. Death Touch Lifelink, that is a payoff. So it could be like a pocket of synergy type thing, where, like, if we played some of these cards, they probably are good in the deck, but then I don't think you need to build your whole deck around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to include those. But then I think there's one more that cares about drawing your second card. This one, right? Let's see, where is it? I can't click on it. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so if we think about like these, then if we just fill it out with like normal blue and black cards and then happen to have a little bit of extra card draw, then I think that would work. I think maybe this also might be another place where the Mightstones animation is great because it triggers the second card. So if we have enough other artifacts, then that would be solid. Maybe here's where you want the Urza. If you have Urza and Stern Lesson, then you could play Clay Revenant to get some value off of the discard. I think the cycling, these types of cards are really good in this deck, too. So what if you played, like, Elsewhere Flask? If you happen to get lucky enough to see that, then you would want to do so. You'd want to put it in your deck. Like, maybe these are both just good cards here, because then we can put the Mightstones animations. Yeah, so I think Mightstones animations look really good in blue, black, and blue-red for these reasons. Prowess and drawing your second card. And so you just want to make sure you can support it with the Power Stones and things. So what that means is we want to make sure we have enough artifacts to support that plan, because if you don't have the artifacts, it's pretty bad. So I guess the question is, would we play another Clay Revenant? The answer might be yes. Or maybe just another Stern Lesson. I like the Stern Lesson Mightstones animation curve is so sick. I don't know, the other twos here are kind of, the twos aren't the best in blue-black, I don't think. Let's just say we're lucky enough to have a couple of those. I don't know if that's realistic. But hey, I'm not adding rares to my deck, so we can we can be a little greedy with the build in some spots. What about Goring Warplow? Well, that's a good two. Like, the rest of the twos aren't that good, right? So if you played this card, that could be the 2 and the 6 that you want, and then you could play an Emergency Well to trade it off, and then there are also artifacts that combo with the animation if you need to. So we're getting somewhere. I guess Gix's Caress into Mightstone animation, is that what we're doing? I think so. Ooh, Moment of Defiance on our 4/4. That's nice too. And it draws a card. Ah, Moment of Defiance is a blue-black card. I figured it out. I figured it out, folks. Alright, it took me a little while. But this is actually like the best core for it. Because, like, if you imagine Moment of Defiance, it's going to trigger your Trench Stalker mid-combat. And, I mean, double Lifelink is a little redundant and kind of lame, but on any of these where, like, you get the big swing with the life boost is going to be good. Like, if you go Thopter Mechanic Moment of Defiance, then it becomes a 5/3 on turn 3 if they block. You gain 5 life. That's a pretty good curve if you get to do it. Maybe, you know what? There's enough ways to draw the extra cards. Maybe let's just put another Trench Stalker in this deck. I think it's like, oops, misclicked. I think it's the real deal. Alright, blue-black's coming together. I don't think it's a Ravenous Gigamole. We're not playing that many creatures yet. And this is just like kind of a dorky 3/3. I don't really think that's what... Ooh, Scrapwork Rager. That draws you your second card each turn. That's the one you want on 4. Okay. And then maybe... well, we already have the Goring Warplows. But anything else we want? The world is our oyster. I don't have a lot of ways to interact right now in this deck, so maybe like throwing a Disfigure in is realistic. Anything else? Ooh, I like the Urza Scrapwork Rager combo. That's good too. Like, you get your card regardless, but then you get a Power Stone out of it. How likely are you to be able to steal Exemplar? I don't think this deck has that many Power Stones, now that I'm looking at it. Should we put Corrupt in just because we're greedy with the Elsewhere Flask? Maybe. That seems a little too shenanigan-y for actual shell rather than a specific deck. I would play it if I had drafted that specific combo. Let's just put a Spotter Thopter in to help top out the curve. And then, what are we missing? One more removal spell. And Overwhelming Remorse. It's not as good in this type of deck, but... Oh, you know what we could do instead? Just put a Weak Stone Subjugation. I think that's more realistic. Alright. Blue-black, folks. Figured it out. Yeah, Moment of Defiance is good in blue-black. That it is. Okay, that is blue-black. Rounding out the curve here. Just a couple left. I like the look of that one, though. That's pretty cool. Some of these shells are definitely, like, there's definitely a lot of synergy around everything going on. And, yeah, I think the signposting of the draw 2 or more did actually get there. I was a little skeptical of it first. But I think Trench Stalker is the reason that it works. Because you need the common payoffs. Like, you're not realistically going to get all 3 of these uncommons. But even if you had a couple, and then you had the Trench Stalkers, then it's a reason enough to build around it. And I think Mightstone's animation is just, like, crazy good anyways. Like, you really want to have the Stern Lessons and Gix's Caress to be able to turn this on turn 4. But even if you don't hit on turn 4, later on it's still going to be pretty solid. Alright, next... So we have red-green and black-green. Let's do red-green because I think black-green is super cool. I'm going to save it for last. Let's see, red-green. I normally do not draft red-green because normally I do not understand red-green relative to other colors. But, that being said, I think red-green is just like big things in this format. Again, you can like include this, but red-green doesn't seem like a particularly defined archetype. A 3-mana 3/3 trample haste 4 is absurd. Yeah, I mean red-green is just like rate. It's all just about rate and good cards. I guess if I don't click that button, then those don't show up. That's what's going on there? Oh, no, if I don't click that button, none of the artifacts show up that aren't red-green? I see. Ooh, let's get there on the giant gross. Let's attack. I want to attack someone. Argothian Sprite. Are we doing it? Are we attacking? I think we're attacking. 3-1 reach. Maybe this is the time to do it. Yeah, so I think the creatures in red-green are... You don't have a ton of options because... But you have multiple 3-power creatures, so... Maybe you just like... Maybe you're just in on these 3-1s. I mean, 2-mana 3-1 ward too. That's kind of hard to interact with. And then if you have the pump spells... Like, that plus Whirling Strike is kind of a massive beating. I think red-green, you're not going to get that many Power Stones, unless as we're looking at it, because other people are going to be prioritizing them, and you don't care as much about that. I kind of want another 2-drop. That's why I'm looking at this still. There's not a ton of great ones for what red-green's trying to do here. I might just have to, like, double up, like, play more Rock Hunters. That card's kind of bad, but if you just always have 2-mana 3-1s, and you have combat tricks, then maybe that's fine. Or Argothian Sprite. Can't be blocked by artifact creatures. I don't know how relevant that's going to be. Although, a lot of the artifact creatures are the really big ones, so if it just attacks past the small things and can't be blocked by the big things, that's pretty good. Yeah, obviously going to put this in every deck, like I said. Because I'm going to prioritize the heck out of it. Maybe one of these. Maybe a 3-3, I don't know. It's aggressive. Maybe this is the Thopter deck finally. Just attack him. I mean, you could play a 3-mana 4-2. Hey! How's it going, Eric? I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm trying to build some decks here. Ish. I guess this is where the Obstinate Baloth's really good. If red-green just cares about rate and pump. Do we want a 4-5? Ooh, are we... Oh, maybe it's Juggernaut time. I kind of love this Juggernaut. It's kind of everything you want on... Unleashed Shell's also pretty good in red-green, if you're just attacking. Okay, and then we want some prototype cards, obviously. Ooh, 5/5 Trample. That could be decent, too, even though you're not fueling the graveyard that much. But I think the prototype creatures are going to be just better here. I don't think there's enough mana to get there on the Rest Goliath. Something like this. Honestly, maybe you would play more, like there's 16 creatures and... Like 1, 2, 3 removal spells plus 3 pump spells. That seems solid, and you just curve out and attack them. And then you also have, like, some modality with a lot of this stuff. Oh yeah, Giant Cindermaw into Obstinate Baloth. That is a combo. That's funny. Yeah, I'm going to cut it just out of principle. I'm going to put in another Iron Claw Crusher because I'm feeling I'm feeling like we want to do that instead. Okay. I just can't do that on out of principle. Not that you can't put those two cards in the same deck. You definitely would. But I can just imagine the Twitter responses when I post these pictures. You know that doesn't work, right? Oh, my goodness. Yeah, this looks solid. I mean, pretty straightforward. Hit him hard. Pump, attack. Repeat. Okie dokie. You want to fuel your graveyard. You want to pump your stuff. You want to get it back with your emergency weld. You want to have cheap removal that kills everything. Alright, what are we doing from here? Oh, you have Blanchwood Prowler? That's a nice one. Definitely a high pick in black-green, specifically. Because you get the land, you put your creatures in your graveyard. You start to fuel that here. I really like, where is it? The 7-mana one? I really like Boulder Branch Golem for this deck. Although, it looks like there's going to be good fours, because Ravenous Gigamole, I think, is a high pick in the deck, and if that's true, then this card falls off a little bit, because you don't want to play it on 4 as much, so maybe that's wrong. Maybe I don't care as much about this. You know what? Maybe you care about more Goring... Maybe you care about Goring Warplow, because you just want to trade. So maybe Disciples of Gix. Maybe that's not what we're doing, actually. Although you would think it would be, because you want creatures in your graveyard. But I think there's just... You're going to get there naturally by playing Magic, trading, and then also these other cards fuel it anyways. Sacrifice another creature. Ooh, Skyfisher Spider with Blanchwood Prowler is also sick. Do we want to play Clay Revenant? I don't know if there's that many ways to actually take advantage of Clay Revenant in this particular color pair. But maybe. I mean, we'll put one of these in. It's just good in every green deck. It's a really high pick, so you have to make sure you actually like take it appropriately. Burrowing Razor Maw. Trade it off. Milling 4. Powering up your Remorses and Emergency Welds. Honestly, yes, I can see it. Maybe a Skull Flare. I mean, this card probably could be good in black-green as well, but I don't think that it's needed, necessarily. Are there any other 2s that I want to play for sure? Because if there are... I don't think we need Thraxan even. I think you really want the Goring Warplows. That's the card you want to prioritize. Epic Confrontation is good, but I think if you have the Overwhelming Remorses, you don't have to worry about it as much. Obviously, it's interchangeable. I'm going to have this be the removal spell because it would be the card you care about the most with this style of deck. Okay. Oh yeah, definitely love the Battlefield Butcher. And it's going to be premium. It's like at its best in black-green. I put this as my best black. I think this is the best black uncommon. Like, your opponent just repeatedly losing life for not very much mana is pretty broken. So, fan of that. Alright, so what do we fill out the rest of our deck with? We basically just have a ton of creatures, which is exactly what you want. I think we need to add more creatures. But maybe we want some flexible ones that have prototype. Maybe a Hoarding Recluse, that would be good. Just to block, trade. Oh yeah, here we go. Gaia's Courser. This is the deck for that. 4/5, draw cards when it attacks. Love it. Throw one of these in for good measure. Yeah, we could play another Burrowing Razor Maw. Where is that? If I need to, I'll add one to my deck. Could we get there on a Rest Goliath? Maybe. Maybe you just want more of this Gnarlroot Pallbearer. Giving something +X/+X until end of turn, though, it's not that big a payoff unless that creature has trample. So maybe it's not that exciting. It's good together. I guess this is really the deck where you want the option of Baloth. Maybe you just want all the life gain. Throw one of these in too. Green, black, recursion, everything. A little light on the early interaction. I guess if we had Clay Revenant, getting into the graveyard is not a problem, but what are the combos with it? You could play this in like a Thraxodemon. And then that at least trades. And then what else cares about that kind of thing? Maybe just not enough. I guess green just doesn't care about looping this card. Thraxodemon is just decent anyways, though. Because you could sacrifice something and then get it back. And it also works well with the 1/1 that this makes. So I could just play this without the Clay Revenant. I think that's better. And it's a 2/2 that trades. That's kind of what I was thinking of with that. One, two. I don't think this has enough artifacts for the Steel Seeker. Whatever, you would probably just play whatever rare you open, so I don't need to worry about like the last card too much. Oh, what about that one card? Where is it? Mask of the Jadecrafter. If the game goes long, this is pretty good, and you're not doing that much on 2 anyways, so you can get that down and just make like a 3/3 on turn 3, or obviously that guy's not the best, but that's another card you could play. And then it works really well late game. It has Unearth, which is good with the milling. Yeah, I can see it. Alright. So 18 creatures. I think that's about where you want to be with black-green. Because you really want to make your Overwhelming Remorses that much better. And your other self-mill shenanigans. Because there's a lot of that. Battlefield, Butcher, Gitaxian, Skullflare, that kind of thing. Alright, nice. Okay, so those are our deck skeletons. Okay, so looking back on that, I think there is a lot of synergy between in these color pairs, like, I think you can really make it work. I think you want to prioritize those synergy pieces like the Blanchwood Prowlers in their respective decks. But the biggest takeaway is you want to take prototype early and often, because basically every deck wanted to play as many prototype creatures as they could get. And then what's that blue card? The 4 mana. Yeah, this one right here. Mightstone's animation was really the key to blue-red and blue-black. So that's something to look out for. I haven't really exactly still figured out exactly what white wants to do, but we'll get there with time. And I think blue-white does kind of need the Soldier Lords to be good, but there's lots of Soldier Lords at uncommon and rare. So if you're lucky enough to see those, then I think blue-white can be a good soldier deck with all that stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I guess that's it for me today, since, well, there's no Brothers War that I can play right now. So as soon as I can, I'll probably make some videos for it once it comes out, and we'll see if these deck archetypes end up being true. I'll also post the pictures on the Twitter as well, the Twitterverse, if you want to review them that way. Yeah. So thanks for everyone for hanging out. It's been fun. And hopefully, as I do this, I think I'm going to probably keep trying to do this for each set, because it's a good way to kind of like wrap my mind around what these decks look like at common and uncommon, and get a picture of like what actually is going on with it, and then adjust from there. Hopefully I'll get better and better at actually building these deck skeletons over time. So everyone, thanks for hanging out, and I will catch you around.